I mean, this was a team that when we looked at it last year, we were so excited for this team. The only question mark was quarterback, because Drew Lock, it was a big question mark. It's like, okay, he had some good moments. He had some bad moments coming out of the previous season. If he can be the guy that they wanted out of Missouri, maybe this team could be really good. Unfortunately for the Broncos, Drew Lock turned out to be about the opposite of what they wanted out of a quarterback. And so they were unable to have really any success. But it was like, oh, man, they just brought in Patrick Surtain. They're getting Von Miller back and Bradley Chubb, and it's going to be so great. They've got Jerry Jeudy, and then I think last year was year 2 or year 3. But now you look at this team, and let's just focus on the defensive side of the ball. Patrick Surtain is coming into year 2. Justin Simmons is one of the best in the NFL at the safety position. You have Randy Gregory, who I think is decent. He's not terrible whatsoever, but you have Bradley Chubb, like I brought up. This is a team, and Ronald Darby is also a guy that over the last 8 seasons, it feels like has always been just like a really solid player, as a number 2, number 3 cornerback behind plenty of different guys. But Matt, what do you think about what this defense can be for the Denver Broncos? Because they got to go against some. We just did our top 10 quarterbacks. They went against all top 10 or fringe top 10 quarterbacks as they have to play them twice a year. What are you thinking about this defense?
So I think the first thing they bring up is that they completely have to work it out for them. They are in the worst spot to be a team with a good secondary, because no matter what, if you're a good secondary, if you have good pass rush, whatever it is, the quarterbacks and receivers in this division are going to make you look stupid time and time again. So that's the first thing I want to bring up is they're going to look probably worse than they did last year in terms of the secondary. And last year, I thought last year they probably had the best secondary. They were extremely deep. I was pretty high on Pat Surtain. He lived up to expectations. And if they're not the best, they were one of them. They did lose Bryce Callahan this year. They added K'Wan Williams, Ronald Darby, Pat Surtain. I feel like they lost someone else too. But Pat Surtain, Ronald Darby, Justin Simmons, K'Wan Williams, I already brought him up, but he's a very underrated nickelback. That's a really good secondary still. Their linebackers, a little questionable. Bradley Chubb's a great player off the edge. Interior defensive line, they added DJ Jones. They also added Randy Gregory, like you brought up. So, it's pretty good. I don't know if how much it's going to be able to hang in the AFC West. I don't think that they're going to be looked at as one of the top defenses in the league, but I think that they are good enough in terms of producing some turnovers, making some big time plays, limiting those opposing offenses enough, because their offense is that elite. Their offense should be one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. That should be the expectation. If it is not a top 3 or top 5 offense, that is a really bad year from this offense. That should be the full expectation. So can they be top 10 in terms of talent? Yeah, I definitely think they can. Are the stats, are the numbers, all that kind of stuff necessarily going to look like that? I would probably lean not, just because you look at the teams in the NFC, you look at some of the defenses that the offenses that those defenses are going against, and it's a lot worse, a lot less talented. So I think maybe in terms of numbers and stuff, they won't look like it, but they are good enough in terms of talent. And when you add in how good this offense is, they're good enough to make a run. They're good enough to make a push.
Yeah, and like you said, Matt, when they're playing against the AFC West, it's going to be difficult. But they also get to play against a lot of really bad teams, and they're going to destroy these bad teams. They play against the Seattle Seahawks, the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe they get to play against the Week 15 Arizona Cardinals, which, Kyler's probably not playing in that game, and if he is, Cliff's run out of plays at that point. So, they're going to have a lot of weeks where they look like they're the best defense in the NFL, but then they're going to have a lot of weeks where it's like, oh, wow, they don't look that good. And why don't they look that good? Oh, because they're going against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Oh, they're going against Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. Oh, they're going against Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. No defense is going to look good consistently against that. But like you said, Matt, Patrick Surtain is going to make some plays. Justin Simmons is going to make some plays. Bradley Chubb is going to get some crucial sacks. Bradley Chubb has been, whenever he's been on the field, he's been very effective as a pass rusher. So, I'm excited to see him, hopefully play a full season this year. But they're going to make enough plays to win games, because the offense is always going to keep them in the game. And they are always going to be able to outscore their opponent. So if they can get a couple of stops a game against these really difficult to beat teams, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat, no matter the month, but especially come January, because it's just going to be like, oh, Russell Wilson in the postseason, but he actually has a good defense. When was the last time Russell Wilson played in the postseason with a good defense? How many points did they allow the number one offense in the history of the NFL in terms of total points? Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl, because I specifically remember them wiping the floor with them. Russell Wilson with a good defense is filthy. It's filthy. It's rare, but it's filthy.
Yeah, dude, I think that this is going to be a pretty good team. I think this is one of the better teams in the AFC West. I do also kind of wonder if it's going to take a year for them to, mesh, kind of get together. But in terms of the wide receiver talent with Russell Wilson, with one of the better offensive lines than he's ever had, with the best running backs in terms of the combo that he's had. He obviously had Marshawn, but they never really had a great two. They have a pretty solid 1-2 punch. I don't know. I still might want Marshawn kind of in those days, though, still. But even then, you got Javonte, you got Melvin Gordon, you got good players. It's just so talented, this roster, offensively, that the defense just kind of has to hang in there, and they have to get a couple picks against Mahomes, get a couple third down sacks, a couple PBU, stuff like that when they're playing Herbert, Carr, whoever it is. And the good thing is okay, the Raiders let's look at the receivers. Well, it's Juju, I guess, technically for the Chiefs, but Travis Kelce, you can maybe bring, Justin Simmons down. You can have some guys switch on to him. You can do some stuff. But in terms of Devontae Adams, right? They got a guy that can actually man up on him, that can go and hang with Devontae Adams. And a lot of teams don't have that. In fact, very, very few teams have that. And so that's why I think they're going to be able to hang, and why this defense is good enough. But Pat Surtain, great player. Justin Simmons, great player as well. So those are kind of the captains of this unit. If Bradley Chubb is healthy, you could kind of throw his name in there too as a really high-end defensive player. But having, your two best defensive players in the secondary for this division, it might make them come across as worse, but it's probably more important in the long run in terms of W's at the end of the day.
Yeah, again, this is not a defense to draft in fantasy football as your defense for the year. This is a defense to stream if you're thinking about fantasy, when they play against those bad teams, because there will be games when it's oh, wow, how many points did they allow? 7. But when they go against the Chiefs, it'll be, 31-34. That'll be the final score. And it's oh, the defense wasn't playing that well. The defense doesn't need to hold. You don't beat Mahomes by holding him to 14 points. You beat Mahomes by getting a sack on a third down. You beat Mahomes by getting a tipped interception. That's how you do it. It's not about, oh, man. It's possible. It's very difficult. I don't think they have the caliber of defense where it's going to be oh, wow, they just completely shut down Mahomes. He scored 7 points. They're not that. But they're going to be, hey, Surtain got a pick because he tried to fit the ball in to Juju. Boom. End of drive. What happens when Russell Wilson gets the ball in a close game? He scores. Look at that. You're beating the Chiefs. That's how this defense is going to work. That's how they're going to win those big games, is they can make enough plays. And it is, a lot of times you say oh, this defense isn't very good, but they make a lot of plays. The Dallas Cowboys defense is they're purely relying on making good plays. It's Micah Parsons needs a sack or Trayvon Diggs needs a pick to stop a drive. That's not this defense. They can stop you. They have good players, but when you're in those super high profile games against those top tier offenses, that's what you need. Matt, do you have anything final to kind of add into this Broncos defense? All right. I just want to thank everybody for coming through and, watching. If you're watching the stream, if you're watching the cut up segments, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, for 4 times a week, NFL content, basketball content, MLB content, fantasy, college football. That's what we try and bring. I would like to talk about everything. If you ever have something you want to talk about, let us know, specific players and things like that. We set up the social medias and things like that. So make sure to keep an eye out for Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as well. But thank you so much for coming through, and we'll see all of you, or I guess Matt will see you again tomorrow.